All right. So, welcome to this Zoom workshop offered by the Bates Center for Purposeful Work. Today, we're going to talk about using Handshake and Vault guides in your career exploration and job search. Just the structure of the program. We're just going to go through some tips and tricks about using Handshake, setting up your profile, career interests, using job search and appointment functions in Handshake, going through some of the resources that are available, and then we'll finish up by talking about the Vault Guide resource. But first, let's get started by introducing ourselves. So my name is Peter Osborne, and I'm an associate director in the Bates Center for Purposeful Work. And I'm joined by my colleagues here.
Sheila Anderson, also Associate Director of Marketing, Outreach, and Operations.
And I'm Beverly. I'm the Assistant Director for Employer Engagement and Internships here at Bates.
And so Beverly's going to kick off our time together talking about why should you even care about using Handshake. So let me share my screen here and then we will get started. All right.
Great. Thank you, Peter. So why Handshake? Handshake is a program that we like to use because it has multi-functions to support both students and employers. So one of the things that we really like about Handshake is that all of the jobs and internships that are posted here are vetted by Purposeful Work staff and are geared specifically towards students and our entry-level positions. So unlike some of the other job boards that you might see like monster.com or even on LinkedIn, where these opportunities may range from beginner level all the way through requiring maybe 10 plus years of experience. These are really geared towards students who are undergraduates and students who are recent graduates. So the vetting part is important too, because we want you to know that we have looked through these positions to make sure that they're catering to what it is that our majors and areas of interest provide, and they're ones that we find valuable. We also want this to be an option for you all to connect in Handshake because it's an avenue by which opportunities are shared by Bates alumni and other connections. So if any Bates alumni should contact us, this is a great way to see what they're offering for both part-time, full-time, and internship positions. Speaking of positions, this is also an opportunity for you to find out what is happening on campus positions, because all on-campus student employment positions are posted here. So if you're looking for a job for work study, or if you're looking for a job that it would provide some additional skill sets, everything that is posted from Bates Employment Office is located here. We also like you to use this to schedule appointments with the staff members at the Center for Purposeful Work. So we will get into that a little bit later, but these are some of the reasons why Handshake and why it might be of value to you. Great. So the next point that we want to make is take you through some of these areas so you can visually see what you have access to. So the first thing that we're going to talk about are profiles. So Peter has graciously offered for us to look at his profile and what that might look like under the student lens. So Peter, if you wouldn't mind, open that up. You can see you can access that from the top right-hand corner and click on my profile. Once that populates, you all can see that there are some things that you might want to take notice of. Peter has 100% complete, which is astounding. And we really want to make sure that you all have put forth the best efforts for when employers are looking at what you put out there. So as you can see on the left-hand side, there's an opportunity for you to post a picture, to include information such as your name, the fact that you have a major established in there once you do so, and also the graduate year and your GPA. So when you think about how you would do this, some of that functionality is located when you hit the lovely writing tool there, and then some of it you would also go to under the education section that we'll talk about in a minute. So Peter, would you actually click on that education writing utensil? And that is where you can locate not on only your education level, but when you anticipate to graduate. And so if that should change at any time, you all have the opportunity to change this and make sure that is reflective of any majors and or minors that you would like the public to see. And then also your GPA, as that may change a bit, you can make sure that that's updated as well. Thank you, Peter. A couple of other things that you might notice on this page is the fact that you have an opportunity to put your work and volunteer experience. So that's something that you can just list. As Peter has mentioned, at his current role as a junior, he is actually the associate director at the Bates Center for Purposeful Work, which we're very proud of him for. And he helps direct students achieve their dreams. That is such an awesome feat, and we're so glad to have him as part of our office. So one thing that you might want to consider is that if you have a lot of information that you want employers to be aware of that they might not necessarily have access to on your resume, you could copy and paste some of those in this section, including some of the things that have numeric details that adds a little bit of pop. So those are things to consider in this section and to flush it out a little bit more. You also want to make sure that the work and volunteer experience here is reflective of the same dates that you've included on your resume, because that could be a comparison note that some of the employers make as well. Below, you'll see the organizations and extracurriculars. Those can be things that you have done either recently as a Bates student, or if you're a first or second year student, you can include some of your high school extracurriculars as well. So those are some things that you might want to fill out a little more. On the left-hand side, you'll notice that the GPA Peter has selected is hidden from employers. So that is something that you can decide on your own accord. Do note that some specific positions have a GPA requirement, so you'll want to pay attention to what the job postings state and if that would be something to consider to add in or subtract. Under your interests, you'll see that there's a couple of areas that you can add in, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more in detail with Sheila. Okay. Anything else, team, that you'd like to interject about the profile right at this time?
No, not at this moment. Are we going to cover the employer view?
We can totally do the employer view as well.
Okay.
So one important feature of this is that you all can see the behind the scenes of what an employer would look at. So as you can see on the left-hand side, there is an employer view and a gray button. And that is something that you can select to look at, so you can see what potential recruiters are seeing as they look at your profile. So if you're thinking about an employer scanning this in 5 to 7 seconds and looking quickly at what you put in there, that is what they'll be seeing. So make sure that it is clear, concise, that you've looked at some things like how you've done with your spelling and other areas of interest as well. Peter, would you like to say anything else about that section?
No, I think it's just good to be aware of how it's going to appear to an external audience and some of the things that an employer will see when they look at your profile.
Excellent.
And the student has control over whether or not the employer has the ability to see their profile by clicking that join.
Absolutely. Well, next we have Sheila, who's going to talk a little bit about how your career interests work and how you can look into those.
So Peter, if you wouldn't mind going back up to your face in the upper right-hand corner and then click on that drop down and select career interests. So career interests are another very important part of Handshake that should be completed by students and should be updated frequently by students. So this section allows you to identify those interests regarding industries, locations, job types that you are looking for. So if you are, if we go through the questions, it's asking, are you looking for a job, an internship? Is it part-time? How can Handshake help you? What are the options that you're considering for after graduation? These are all things, if you don't know and you're considering many options, it's multi-select. So we encourage you to select as many as are possibly of interest. I think the question on job roles, Peter, you might have gone. I would skip the job role question. Personally, I think it's too narrow and it's going to narrow down your search so that you're not finding a lot of opportunities. You're better off continuing on with where you're interested in living and your career clusters and industries of interest. These career clusters and industry of interest are also allow you to tell Handshake exactly what kind of opportunities that you're looking for within the system. So if you are interested in arts and entertainment and you want to, you are an artist and you want to work in a particular art gallery, then you can narrow your search by going through and filling out these interests and industries. We also send weekly emails out to students based on these selections of career clusters and industries. Those emails are sent out on Thursdays based on these selections. So we encourage students to cast a wide net and update them frequently. Once you've gone through all of these questions, go ahead and save your career interests and you are done. This will then tell Handshake how to prioritize the opportunities that it shows to you when you go to jobs, what it highlights on your home page for upcoming events and other opportunities. So speaking of events, Peter, if you wouldn't mind going up and, is that where we're heading next? Oh, I'm sorry, I think we're heading to job and internship search.
I would just point out, you can see here on my student homepage that these jobs are targeted to what I've selected my career interests to be.
Thank you.
And you can change those at any time. So it's not like if you just put it in once, then you don't have access to it. That is an editable function. So as your interests change, you can definitely cater that towards what it is that you would like to see more often. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we're going to switch over to jobs and internship search. So Peter's going to show you the lovely job function. And so if you select that, you'll see that this is what populates. And so there's a couple of things we want to call to your attention. So the first is that in the middle, you can see that there's full-time, part-time, internship on campus, and then there's additional filters. So Peter, if you wouldn't mind clicking that. We want you to be aware of this because this can be really helpful as you're vetting different opportunities. So we do have tabs such as internship. If there is something that you want to see has a payment associated, when you click on the more function, Peter, can you show us what else is available on the right-hand side, that blue button? Yep. Okay, great. So volunteer, etc. And then the paid roles are what Peter is clicking on below. So if you are only interested in those paid positions, that's something to consider. When you're also looking at on-campus positions, if you're work study eligible, that's another selection that you would put in there. And then also if they have interviews on campus. Another thing that you can select is the option where it says all employer preferences match. And that's something that we will call to your attention as well, because they will be able to look at everything that is listed below based on what you select to see if this is already a match or they're looking for additional experience or less experience depending upon the position you're applying to. The other thing that I will call your attention to is the work authorization. So if you are one of our international students and you're looking specifically for employers who have indicated OPT or CPT support, or will provide sponsorship with work visas, that's something that some of the employers indicate as well. So we're going to look at some specific areas. So Peter, I will let you use your imagination with what kind of job title or industry you'd like to select and a specific location.
Well, so I am especially interested in education. So I'm going to look at this industry list, and I would say if it's your first time using this search tool, I would scroll through the list. It's it's going to take a little bit more time, but this will help you to understand what are the different categories. So I'm going to say I'm looking for positions in higher education. You can select multiple industries. So I saw another category for other education, and we'll throw that in there. And now we're down to 39. These are internships, paid internships. But I'm actually going to change this to full-time jobs. Now we're at 400, which is a little more palatable. And let's say I want to live in Boston. Join my fellow Bobcats in Boston. So we could filter this even further by specific job function. I tend not to use the major or employer boxes, but you can see that as you apply filters, this number gets smaller. So you can click here and go to see jobs. All right. So then this is the list of actual jobs that our search generated.
And up at the top where it says the 52 jobs, you can also look at that relevance dropdown and you can indicate what it is that you would like to see, either by relevance compared to what you put in, expiration date, or when it was posted. So that's one way that you can filter. If you are on a deadline and you need something quicker, you could see if it has an upcoming deadline that might be something you need to focus on quicker than some of the other opportunities.
Great.
So as you can see there, everything's listed on the left-hand side, and then the top listing will populate so you can see in a little more detail what they have matched. And so it seems, Peter, you have been matched with Tufts. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And an AmeriCorps position that is paid. And that's something that will give you all the details of the job description. And once you scroll down, it may even give you some tips on how to apply. So the deadline is August 31st, and then you would apply externally. So if you click on that, it would then take you to the link that you would need to apply all of the things that are required to. Now, if Peter especially liked this position, one thing that he could do is star it on the right-hand side to be one of his favorites. That is lovely. Thank you, Peter. So if you find that there are things that are of great interest and you just don't have time to look at all the details right now, this is a great way to see what it is that you found so that you can find it easily when you come back. And then Peter, would you mind showing where those populate? Okay, so if you just click on my favorite jobs, you'll be able to see that there are more additional ones. Apparently Peter has not favored many under this category, so you can...
I haven't been job searching recently.
We're glad to hear that. Is there anything else, team, that you feel is important for them to know about this page?
Another way that you can kind of make Handshake work for you is to actually create search alerts. So if we find a search that works for us that, you know, is filtered the way that we filtered to exactly the type of job that we're looking for, if you click where it says save your search here, then Handshake will send you automatic email updates when new jobs that meet your search criteria get posted to Handshake. So it's an easy way to make the tool work for you.
The last thing I'll say about this page is that there is up top next to the job search, there's an applications part we want you all to be aware of, and that is where you can see everything that you've applied to. So you can see if you've had previous positions that might have contacted you and you need a refresher, that is where everything will be located as well. Last thing that I'd like to say is that there's a place that some organizations might require additional documents. So there is a section where you can click on the drop down on the right-hand side. Right, Peter?
You're going here?
I think so, to get to documents.
Yes. To documents, yes.
Thank you. This would be an appropriate place to include your resume, cover letter. Some organizations require additional writing samples, things like that. Those would all be really important to upload here. And just a pro tip, if you're uploading something, I would suggest to make sure that you have it in a PDF format with your name first and last, and then also the name of what the document is. So for example, Beverly Very resume saved as a PDF, because that will help with your transition. So if you're going from a Mac to a PC or a PC to Mac, that will help with things not becoming in a dangling sense on a second page and things of that nature. Okay, that's all I have for that. So Sheila, if you want to take it away.
Gladly, I'll take you to events, Peter, if you wouldn't mind, at the top bar.
Doing my best virtual Vanna White.
Thank you.
Van?
Very appreciated. So events. The great thing about Handshake is that employers have the ability to share events with universities that are on Handshake. Each university has the ability to review the said event and determine whether or not it meets the possible needs or interests of our students. So there's many events listed in, Peter, could you scroll down? If you were to just scroll, they're chronological. So the most recent event rises to the top and it goes down throughout the calendar. As you can see, we're going out to May, and this is only next week, and there's a ton of events. So if you wanted to filter this down to what is Bates doing, what is Purposeful Work doing, if you scroll back up to the top, Peter, can you click search events, please? So this is going to open the filter column on your right-hand side, and you can see the host, Bates College. So if you click that, this narrows your search down to exactly what Purposeful Work and Bates are offering to Bates students and alumni. There's currently 4 virtual events scheduled, including this one at the top. Peter, I'll ask if you could click into the Careers and International Affairs, please. I'd like to point out, just underneath the title of the event via Zoom is the date and time of the event, as well as the Zoom meeting link, which is a live link that'll take you right to that Zoom meeting when that event occurs. If you are interested in attending this event, you can click RSVP for event, which is the blue button off to the side. And as Beverly mentioned, with the star feature, if you're interested in this event and you're not quite sure that you're committed to officially RSVPing, you can star this and come back to that event later and refresh your memory of what it was. Also, if that meeting link does not appear, if you ever run into an event that it doesn't have that meeting link at the top, if you scroll down throughout the body, a description of the event, oftentimes the Zoom meeting link will be at the bottom of that description. So that's what I have for events. Do either of you have anything further you'd like to add? No.
I would just say that these are really good ways to connect with different types of employers and learn about different fields of work. So whether or not you're in active job or internship search mode, or you're still exploring, you can use these events, especially virtual events, to really explore different types of work and different types of places where you can work.
I think another important thing to remember along similar lines, Peter, is that Bates and Purposeful Work opportunities and events are typically open to all class years. We don't usually restrict based on that, and if we do have to, we are very explicit about that in the title or description of the event. Sorry, Beverly, was that what you were going to
That's exactly, great mind, Sheila. You're doing a great job.
Great.
And I would also say that Handshake is not for just a certain year as well. So first years all the way through recent alum are encouraged to use this and use this in an active way. So don't think that it just has to be for upperclassmen when you have a major that's been established. It's an excellent exploration tool.
Great. So from events, let's go to appointments. And you can find appointments by going to Career Center in the upper bar. And then appointments is what can we help you find? Let's click on appointments. So from here, we're going to schedule a new appointment by clicking on that blue button. And this list of categories. So is there a particular industry that you're interested in? Are you interested in going to graduate school or professional school? Are you unsure of exactly what direction you're heading in? Or do you already know that you want to meet with Peter this afternoon or tomorrow? This is where you'll begin making those decisions. So let's go with exploration, if you wouldn't mind, Peter. And you were a junior. So this next section is appointment type. So what is it that you need help with? Do you need help finding an internship? Are you looking for a job? Do you need documents reviewed, such as your resume or cover letter or interview help? Go ahead and select these. Peter, if you wouldn't mind just selecting internship.
I was going to say the answer is yes to all of those.
I will add on that previous list, I encourage students to read the descriptions of those categories so that you can find out any more specific details about those particular areas. So from here, you can see that we're on the week of Sunday, April 26th. Peter, could you circle that box? Because there's a lot going on this page. Thank you. And we're going to look to schedule an appointment. The first available appointments are tomorrow, the 29th. There's 3 available, 2 with Marianne, 1 at 1:15, 2 o'clock, and then 3 o'clock with Peter. If I wasn't available at any of these times, I could check Thursday. You'll see that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday are kind of grayed out, and that's because there are no appointments available. If none of these times work, you can hit the arrow next to the week of Sunday and it'll scan into next week. Let's do that. And let's see if there's anything on Wednesday. Great, lots of opportunities here to connect with a counselor. Let's select 9 a.m. with Mary Ann. From here, all you need to fill out is what can we help you with? What's the purpose of the appointment? If you're looking for an internship, is there a particular area of industry interests or areas of interest that you are looking for? Or do you really, if you don't know, that's okay too. If you're looking and just starting, I need an internship. If that's where you're at, that's where we'll meet you. So then you just hit request, and that's the message that Mary Ann will end up receiving. She'll follow up, our counselors will follow up since we are remote currently. Our counselors will follow up with you once you schedule the appointment to determine whether or not the appointment will be held via email, Skype, Zoom, or Google Hangouts. And so they'll be in touch.
We also have a phone preference as well.
Thank you. I said Skype instead of phone. Okay, so let's go from here and head to resources. So if we could go back to Career Center and then go to resources. So the resource library in Handshake is curated content that Purposeful Work or Bates or employers have put together for students to use. Right now, you'll see we have lots of information here about our internship program for the summer of 2020, and as well as our funding applications. You'll see this Purposeful Work partners with Parker Dewey for micro internships. This is a new partnership that we have gone into with Parker Dewey. Peter, you could go ahead and click on that if you wouldn't mind. So it'll tell you a little bit about what Parker Dewey is, and it tells you right on the screen, create a free account here. So all you have to do is click that text. It'll take you to the Parker Dewey website that is Bates and Purposeful Work branded. And you can create your own account using your Bates email address. So if you wouldn't mind hopping back to thank you. And let's go back to the resource page. One more page back, please. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind scrolling down, we'll find the SkillScan, access to SkillScan, access to bulk guides, our resume guide and cover letters, interviewing, all of our handouts that normally are available in our office are here in PDF format or in these resources. So click on this, open them up, explore. This is all available for Bates students and alumni.
A number of them, like the resume guide, have these different attachments here,
Thank you.
like sample resumes and things. So just something to be aware of.
Great. Is there anything else that?
No, I usually use the search box here if I'm looking for something in particular, and that's really helpful.
It is very helpful because this list is not alphabetized. So while you'd think there'd be a rhyme or reason to it, it doesn't appear that there is. Your best bet is to search if you're going to look for that resume guide, unless you want to scroll.
But let's also say we wanted to look for vault guides, because that happens to be the next part of our workshop. So we could search for that in particular. Was there anything else we wanted to say about resources generally, though? Okay.
No, Vault is a great resource to kick off, Peter.
Yeah, thank you. It's almost like we planned that. So, so Vault Campus is a subscription service that Bates partners with, and it's a real wealth of information, and we're going to cover just some of the quick highlights. But Vault Career Intelligence is what it's called, because that's what it intends to do, is to give you some insider information on different career fields, to help you in your career exploration if you're in the early stages of figuring out what types of occupations or career fields or industries do I want to look into. But also if you're getting ready for your first interview in a certain industry, this can be a great resource for you. So to access it via Handshake, you can click this link here. I've already opened it in my browser, but you create your own account using your Bates email address, and you get unlimited access to the platform. So when you log in, this is what you see on the homepage for Vault. So I'm going to hit on just 4 different features really quickly on how to use Vault, and I would encourage you to create your account, log in, and kind of explore it yourself, because there's a lot of really good, useful information here. So the first thing I want to show off is the Vault guides. And this is actually, has kind of always been Vault's bread and butter. They've published these guides for a long time. And there are really 3 different types of guides that they publish. One is a career guide. So they will publish, and we'll dive into some of these different guides in just a moment. But one is really a career guide. See if we can find an example. There isn't an example on this page here, but let's go into insurance, because that's really a very exciting field.
Riveting.
Very riveting. And for anybody watching out there, insurance is wonderful. It's very necessary. Okay. So the first type of guide being the career guide, and this gives you a really broad overview about the industry, the types of roles within that industry, a little bit about its history and kind of how it's organized, and also some specific information on networking, resumes, cover letters, interviewing within that industry. So if you're just starting out with exploring a certain industry, or you're wanting to do some informational interviewing with people who work in that industry, the career guide for that particular industry would be a really great place for you to start. So that's the first type of guide. The second type of guide is this guide to jobs. So most of these categories have a job guide, and what it does is it talks about specific occupations within that industry and gives you some insider info. And then the third one is, there's a couple different types of career advice guides specific to an industry. And we'll look at an example of those in just a moment. So let's dive into this Vault Career Guide to Insurance, just so you understand. It is asking me to pay for it. That's strange. Let me log in. I thought I already was logged in. All right, so let's try that again. Now that I'm logged in, free access. So if we click on this view now, it's going to take us to this publication. And there's a really handy table of contents, because these guides are really, I mean, they're essentially short books, manuscripts. So the table of contents can be really helpful in helping you navigate to the section that you want to get to. So, you know, for example, if you're just getting acquainted with the insurance industry, you might start with this introduction. She gives you a really good overview of the insurance industry. And then explore these other sections. The scoop talks about the basics of the industry, history, the current state of the industry, and what the future of insurance might look like. The next major section would be advice on getting hired. So that's specific to how do you actually job search within the industry, the insurance industry, including how to get to know the field better, making professional connections within insurance, and specific interviewing advice. And then we move into on-the-job advice. So this talks about specific career pathways within this industry. It gives you some examples of what does a day in the life of somebody who works in insurance actually look like. And then there are some questions and answers related to or from people who actually work in the insurance industry. And then finally, and this might be one of my favorite parts of each guide, is the glossary. So if you're talking to somebody who actually works in insurance, being able to use some of the language and the jargon that they use in that field could be helpful for you. So that's the career guides. And if we go back to the Vault guides, you can see all of these different industry guides. You can click on any of them and get access to the different guides within them. So we'll go back to insurance and look just very quickly at the Vault guide to insurance jobs. Take just a moment to load.
Peter, while that's loading, I did want to bring up a good point that students should not have to pay for these. So if they were seeing that there's a payment function, just like you logged in, if they use their Bates login and information, that should allow them to have access to all of these things. So we're not asking them to pay out of pocket for these access guides.
That's exactly right. But I mean, it's kind of good that I wasn't logged in, because you get to see how much value you're getting out of this Bates subscription. If each of these guides are $30 and you have unlimited access to all of them, that's a huge, huge value for this really useful resource. So here we are in the Vault. Thank you, Beverly, for pointing that out. Here we are in the Vault guide to insurance jobs. So again, you can kind of get an overview of the industry. There's a nice fellow taking a picture. But you can also explore specific jobs within the industry in this section. So if you want to learn, you know, what does a life insurance agent and broker actually do? Here's some quick facts about that job, including general duties, what you can expect a salary range to be, information about the work environment, education levels, even down to personality traits. And then you can get into more detailed information about what that job entails and how do you get onto that pathway. So let's go back to the Vault guides and explore just quickly the last type of guide, the career advice guide. So within the banking and finance industry area, there's a really good resource on Vault's guide to finance interviews. I would also say that there's another good one within the consulting area on case interviews, because I think amongst Bates students, the finance interviews and the case interviews are probably going to be the most unfamiliar to students who are wanting to enter those areas. And the Vault guides in each of those areas are really helpful. So this guide about finance interviews, you can see that it gets into specific questions about all of this technical information. So if you're wanting to know what types of interview questions you can expect in a finance interview, you're going to get some samples here and actually also some suggested responses for you to start preparing for those types of interviews. So that's the first section, the Vault guides. I want to move on, and these next two sections, the Vault rankings and research companies, are really helpful if you have a sense of, well, you know, I know I want to work in investment management, but I'm not sure of the companies or the organizations that hire people or the companies that do those types of work. So you can use these two tools to do some research on those organizations. So if we go to the Vault rankings, they have a number of rankings of companies in different industries. So if you're saying, I know I want to work for, let's see, advertising agency. What are the top advertising agencies in that area? And you can come here and see Vault's rankings of the top advertising agencies all over the place. So let's say, oh, Gray Global Group, that sounds really interesting. We can click on their company profile and we can actually get an overview of the company, including their geographic reach, the different types of operations, where they operate. And I would say that there are some company profiles that are much more comprehensive than what we're seeing here. So this is just one example. We can also go to reviews. So if you're familiar with Glassdoor as a platform where people can review specific companies, this is kind of similar. People can review their experiences working at this specific company. And as we can see, nobody has yet submitted a review. I want to go to a different Vault ranking just to show you, because there is another section on a company profile, a number of different sections on company profiles that you can look through here. So here's the review portion, some information on why do you want to work there, Q&A, and this one even has information about diversity and inclusion. So that's good to see. So that's how you can access company information via the Vault rankings. You can access the same information, but if you're looking for specific companies, you can do it via this research companies link. And you could search for a specific company name. Let's say we're looking for PepsiCo. We can go directly to that company's profile. Here, if we wanted to say, well, I want to look at other companies that are like PepsiCo, we could go to the Vault rankings in best food and beverage companies. And you can see just how comprehensive some of this information can be about a specific company. I also want to point out that for some of the bigger companies, there are links to internship information at that specific company, so you can use that also. And then the final thing I'll say about this is, it's just one tool to do your research. There are a number of other resources out there. I talked about Glassdoor earlier. That's another really great resource. But in addition to that, reaching out to Bates alumni via LinkedIn or Bates Bridge, who maybe have worked at that company and trying to get their insights, can be another really good strategy. So then quickly, the final section I want to cover is just this career advice section. You can see all of the different categories here, but Vault really has a lot of good instructional videos, resume samples, career advice guides. I also like this day in the life section where you can actually watch video and written accounts of what do people in these jobs actually do. And you can sort again by the type of industry. And there's a really diverse group of jobs represented here. So that's Vault Guide. I would encourage people to log in and take advantage of this really valuable resource. So with that, we have come to the end. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You now know everything there is to know about Handshake and Vault. All right, is that? Any questions from our panelists?
We appreciate
questions.
you all joining us.
Yes, thank you all for being here.
I will mention, Handshake does have a shortened URL. If you are always going to the Bates website and searching for Handshake and then clicking on a link from there to get to Handshake, if you go to handshake.bates.edu, you'll be brought to the login.
Most excellent. All right. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.